of Tanya are starting today and tomorrow. So if you have another little bit of time, I'm not going to rush it. We're going to try and understand some basic ideas in Tanya. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the two souls, that man has an internal war in himself. So that's going to be tomorrow. A very fundamental idea that we're not one-track minded. We have two parts. Each of us have two parts to them, which is foundational in understanding how the human being works. But that's tomorrow. Today, we're going to ask a lot of questions. And I'm going to try and make this very practical and bring up a topic to help us understand it just in a very simple way. So again, in the actual time, there will be many questions. And we're going to analyze who is a good, just to help us get started, let me just bring up a question. Who is a good person and who is a bad person? When would you call yourself or another person, or your child, a friend, or just a person? Trying to define, this is a good person, or let's use the Hebrew word tzaddik. This guy is a tzaddik. And this guy is a rasha. Rasha means an evil person, a wicked person. When you say this guy is wicked and this guy is righteous, wicked and righteous. You have a wicked person and a righteous person. What would define that? What would make that person, not that we're trying to judge people, we're trying to get into the topic. What would make that person wicked when you say he's wicked? And what would make that person righteous when he's righteous? Anybody want to help out? David Strumeyer, yes.
A person who is a narcissist, who places himself first, and who believes that nothing else matters other than what he wants, when he wants it, how he wants it, the way he wants it. It's very hard for a narcissist to be a very good person, because in my eyes, with what we've learned through you, a good person, a righteous person, is a person who thinks about others, thinks about his loved ones, thinks about what's best for the ones he cares about. But not only that, but doing the right thing in general. You know, just with what we've talked about with Chumash, with hypothesizing about, you know, good versus evil, what intentions were, who lied, who didn't lie, what the intentions were. The bottom line is, a righteous person who thinks about others is usually a very good person. A narcissist is just the opposite. That's just simply said.
So a self-centered an attitude, you're really focusing, David, on the attitude of the person. So you're saying you have two kinds of people. You have some people who only think about as themselves, and there are some people that think about others. And
that's one. You know, you study this in psychology. When I was studying for my degree in psychology, there's so many different spokes in the wheel of what makes a person labeled a bad person, a good person. You know, you can have an evil thinking person that may not be a narcissist. The bottom line is that there's a lot of spokes in the wheel to define good versus evil, bad versus good. I just gave one example of a narcissist. It's very hard for a narcissist to be good. It's extremely hard because they're always thinking about themselves.
Good example. We're gonna build off this. So if you're a self-centered, a person who thinks about, it's the attitude. A person who has a self-centered attitude is one of the strong ways you would say creates the wicked, makes him you would call that a wicked person. And the person who's selfless, does for others, you would term that person as a good person, as a tzaddik.
Yes.
That would be your term. Anybody else want to add or disagree to the definition, or just move on and I'll get to, anybody want to add to that? So I'm going to bring up another question. Who's an alcoholic? Who do we call an alcoholic? Is it someone that is actively drinking alcohol in an unhealthy way out of his mind, is addicted to alcohol, is drinking alcohol? Or is it someone that wants to drink alcohol and is extremely addicted to alcohol, even though he's not actually drinking alcohol? Is he an alcoholic? Is he an alcoholic?
I would say that it's about the effect of it. So like Like I remember someone said, like, what's the difference between someone who's got ADD and someone who's distracted? It matters how it impacts your life. So if that urge is overwhelming your, let's say, your priorities in going to work and caring for your family and stuff like that. So it's about the impact, not the substance, the behavior, not the,
So even if you're defining, you're right. So the definition of alcoholic is not actually someone that drinks alcohol. It's someone that is addicted to alcohol. He wants to drink alcohol very badly. So it could be a guy who drank alcohol like crazy, went to AA, and he hasn't had a drink in 10 years. Is he still an alcoholic, Brad?
He's still an alcoholic.
He's still an alcoholic, even if he hadn't had a drink
Yes.
in 10 years. Good.
Yeah, I remember reading about like true teshuva, where they said about an alcoholic, they said, okay, the person never saw alcohol the rest of their life. They said that's one kind of teshuva. And then they said, but if someone has the true teshuva, they can be offered alcohol and have it right in front of them and still say no.
Oh, very good. So you're defining the person. Here we go now. So you're defining the person not as what they're actually doing, but we're defining their character as identifying who the person is. I'm not saying we should judge people. I'm just trying to help us get through it. So when we say a guy is a righteous person or a wicked person, do we usually mean that he did a lot of good acts or he did a lot of bad acts? Or do we mean the character of the person is a negative character? You understand what I'm saying? It's a very
Negative. Yeah.
So when you say after 120, the guy was a righteous person and he went to heaven, do you usually mean he had a righteous character or he acted righteous most of his life? What do you mean usually if you say that? Alan, what do I mean if I say after 120, the guy was righteous and he went to heaven? Do I mean that he didn't struggle with alcoholism or whatever challenge he has? Or do I mean he acted good most of his life and he went to heaven? Are we talking about his character or are we talking about his deeds, Alan?
I would say his deeds.
Correct. Very good. So
Yeah.
we have, what Tanya is going to do for us is, he's going to open up our mind to starting to look at things. When the Torah says tzaddik and rasha, righteous and evil, what do we mean by that? And we have to make a big difference between a guy who's actually drinking alcohol to someone who's an alcoholic and wants to drink alcohol. Because the guy who wants to drink alcohol is an alcoholic, but he's amazing because he hasn't touched a drink in 20 years. And it's harder for him than the guy who doesn't care not to have a drink. The guy who doesn't like vodka and doesn't drink it when he shouldn't, right? The guy who doesn't like vodka and doesn't drink it when he shouldn't, it's not a big deal. He's a good guy, but he's
Except for
no effort.
Not a friend of mine.
But he's saying ain't no
I
friend.
said, except for David, he's not a friend of mine. Because David's not a drinker.
Which one's David? David's not a drinker.
Jarashow's not a drinker.
Listen, we all have our addictions. So it could be alcoholism is not his challenge, but we all have our challenges, every one of us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We would be malachim. We would be tzaddikim. We would be a tzaddik. So Tanya's going to argue that when we throw around these words, tzaddik, rasha, righteous person, not righteous person, probably everybody's an alcoholic. Everyone in our class is an alcoholic. What do I mean? We're all addicted to things we shouldn't like, we shouldn't want. And the opposite, every time you don't do it, it's a big mitzvah because you want to do it. So none of us are tzaddikim. Nobody's a tzaddik because we all have a part to us that's part animal. We're all 50% animal. We're selfish. We think about ourselves, and we have. Sorry, Harvey. What?
Knees.
What?
We're all knees.
We're all Bainanis. Good. I don't even know if we're Bainanis. I think we're all Russia. We're all wicked. Why are we wicked? Because we are wicked because it depends what your definition of wicked is. We're not wicked in action, but we all want those things that we're not allowed to have. Who in this class doesn't want those things that we're not allowed to have? Everybody wants those things that we're not allowed to have. So we're all wicked. We're all alcoholics. We're all alcoholics struggling in life. and fighting the good fight, not to fall down to those temptations. That's why a person should never be sure of themselves. You know, Eyal brought up before. What did he say? Test me, God. Don't ask God to test you. You know, because you're tested every single day, and ask God not to test you, and then you'll deal with the test that you have. So Tanya today, from the questions we're going to bring up, he wants to define this word thrown around, tzaddik, Russia. You know, you're right. If you're 51% good, 49% bad, you go to heaven because you have more good than bad. Fine, but that's not really defining who you are. That's just defining the credits. You did more good things than bad things. Hopefully, you did 60-40 good, or maybe even 70-30, maybe 80-20, 90-10. But that doesn't define your struggle, who you are. You could be a person struggled the whole life through, and you're successful in your struggle, but you're always an alcoholic. You're not a tzaddik. Nobody here is a tzaddik. Maybe Mitchell Burko. I don't know about that. But nobody, I know I'm not. I'm definitely not a tzaddik. I know that I'm struggling in life every single day with my passions and my drives and my addictions, and I'm not a tzaddik, 100% not, even though David Strumeyer says I'm 100% a Russia. And I'm proud of it. No, and I'm a proud Russia because I am struggling in life with the things I have. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to be struggling. There's nothing wrong. That's not who I am, because I am how I act. It is who my struggle, but I'm not acting on my struggles that I'm having. So just to open our eyes a little bit, this idea of tzaddik and Russia. Let's look inside and we'll hopefully understand today's Tanya. Okay. All right. Here we go. So let's look. We'll see inside. It's a lot of questions, as I mentioned. So I'm going to a lot of the answers are not till the end of the book, but I'm going to even try and answer them now as we go, because we're going to forget the questions. So let's go. Tanya, we learned in a brisa, in the Talmud. We learned in the Talmud, the Soif Perek Gimel Nida, at the end of chapter 3 of a section in the oral Torah of the Talmud called the Tractate, the Book of Nida. And it says in that book, Nida is talking about a woman and her cycles, whatever the topic is about. But over there it says, before you come down to earth, what happens with your soul? A very interesting topic in general on what happens to your soul. So your soul is brought before God, before the heavenly court, and they talk to your soul. They have a conversation, a heart-to-heart talk. And they tell your soul, you're coming down to the world for a mission to accomplish goodness in this world. Tehi tzaddik, you better be a tzaddik. Be a righteous person. Come down here and fight that good fight and win that war. Va'al tiheh rasha, and it's like a double kind of swear. They're making the soul swear. Be a tzaddik and don't be a rasha. Do both, you know? We're going to learn later on that means be a tzaddik, and if you can't be a tzaddik, at least don't be a rasha. And here's where it gets very interesting. The Talmud, it seems not to make sense. This is going to be the question. The whole world tells you, you are a tzaddik. They tell you, Mr., you're a tzaddik. Hey, Beinacha Karasha, don't listen to them. You haven't accomplished your mission. Don't get caught up in what people are telling you in this world, that you're a tzaddik. You, in your eyes, should look like you are wicked. You are a rasha. You should look at yourself like you're wicked. Do not look at yourself like you're a tzaddik. I don't know if David Strumeyer is here, and I saw him before. I don't know if you can hear us. So if the whole world tells you that you're a tzaddik, you should not agree. Should not feel like you accomplished your mission in life. Don't feel like you're this holy, righteous man. You are struggling. You're a rasha, and you're struggling, and don't listen to what everyone's telling you. You're such a good guy. You're such a righteous person. So Tzarech Lahavin, we have to understand this Talmud. How could they be so mean to the soul and expect such crazy things from the soul? How could they say that Vatana, didn't we learn elsewhere? A contradiction to the statement. In Avos, everybody knows Ethics of Our Fathers. He's going to quote now the book of Avot, Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, Perek Beis, in the second chapter of Ethics of Our Fathers. In the Mishnah, it says, V'al tihi rasha b'fnei atzmacha. Never look at yourself as wicked. Very healthy statement. It is unhealthy for a human being to define themselves as a wicked person. Who gives someone advice to look at themselves as wicked? So, and that seems to make a lot of sense. I got to agree with that. The Ethics of Our Father says, look, I'm working on life. I'm not perfect. Fine. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. That's the healthy way to look at yourself. But to look at yourself as wicked, that is destructive. That's a destructive nature. So why could they tell the soul before you come, each of us, before we came down here, our souls were standing in heaven. We're going before the heavenly court, where the angels bringing us down here. And the angels tells us, listen, mister, You're going down to this world. You be a tzaddik. Don't be a rasha. And everyone tells you you're a tzaddik. You look at yourself like a rasha. First of all, that directly contradicts the ethics of our fathers. That's telling you it's unhealthy and it's illogical even to look at yourself like a rasha. Why? What's so bad about looking at ourselves as wicked? He's going to give you two options. What will happen if you think you're wicked? It's like the parent that tells a kid you're a rasha, you're a bad person, you're wicked. What's the problem with educating your children that he's wicked? What's the problem? If one views themselves as wicked, you're going to become very simply depressed. You're going to be a very bitter person, a sad person, a lonely person, a depressed person. It is extremely unhealthy to view yourself as wicked because you will simply be depressed. So what? What's wrong with being depressed? Maybe Judaism wants us to be depressed people, walk around as depressed people. Well, there's a major problem, he tells us, because you won't be able to serve God with joy. It's paramount important for a Jew to serve Hashem with happiness. You go to shul and you're happy. You should love going to shul. What's the business of going to shul depressed? I gotta go. You're so lucky. You get to go to daven to Hashem. You get to keep Shabbos and make kiddush, and you get to put on tefillin. You're so lucky. You're so happy, so positive. That's the right way to be a Jew. So I really don't get the Tanya saying this whole statement of one should look at himself like a rasha. You guys already, from the way I introduced the class, should already be able to see the answer to this question, right? The answer is, we're not saying we're actually wicked. We're saying that we're alcoholics, right? That's going to be the answer. We're saying that we're struggling. I should never view myself like I'm not struggling anymore because you'll get into big problems. I'm not saying I'm a bad person. All I'm saying is that I am a human being, and human beings struggle. That's part of being human. Part of being a human being is that I have challenges in my day-to-day life, and I'm an alcoholic, and I'm not upset about it because I haven't had a drink in 20 years. And I'm not going to do what's wrong. I'm just recognizing the struggle. So if everyone tells me, you are such a good guy, you're such a righteous person, I know that I have a long way to climb. And the second I'm going to get caught up in myself being a righteous person, I'm going to fall. So that's going to be the answer to this question. So being wicked means that I have a wicked tendencies. That's what it means. And we're okay with that. That's part of life's struggle, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you can be happy knowing that you have tendencies of struggling. I'm giving you the answer already, even though the answer will be later on. Now he's trying to tell you, continuing on the question, the original question of asking, well, how could be looking at yourself wicked be a good thing? Because you'll be depressed. Well, what happens if someone says I'm wicked and I'm proud of it? I won't get depressed. If you won't be grieved at all being bad, that's even bigger problems. You don't care to be a bad person. So you tell your whole life, I'm a bad person, I'm a bad person, I'm a bad person. And I don't want to be depressed. So I don't care that I'm bad. I don't care that I'm bad. That's crazy. That's lunacy, because that's what we want to teach a person. He should think he's bad and not care that he's bad. Then you don't care to do anything, right? Apathy. What, I should be apathetic? That's what you want? I should be apathetic? I shouldn't care that I'm bad? That's even more destructive. So he's going to, so those are the questions he raises, and I already gave you the answer. We're not saying that you shouldn't care to be bad. You should care to do bad. But you shouldn't care to be a person that struggles, because that's part of life's journey. That's good. That's okay to struggle and recognize the fact that you're struggling. So what he's going to do now is he's going to define these ideas, start defining these ideas about the struggle idea. That bad means that we have negative tendencies to ourselves. So he says, so let me explain. We find in the Talmud, there are 5 different categories of people. The Talmud defines 5 categories of people. Tzaddik v'toivloi. There's a righteous tzaddik, a holy man, who is perfectly good and therefore doesn't have any struggles or challenges in life. The tzaddik v'rali, and then there's a tzaddik, a righteous person, who is struggling, who's not a perfect tzaddik. And it makes sense why he's struggling. You know why he's struggling physically in life? Because God is trying to help him get to become a perfect tzaddik. He still has some negative tendencies. How does God help elevate us? He gives us challenges. He gives us children. He gives us other challenges in life. And then that makes us better people, because we have to learn how to be self-centered and selfish, narcissistic, as David was saying before. I need to learn to care about others. How does God teach you? You have a kid. He teaches you very fast how to not be so selfish. Or a spouse, they also teach you not to think about yourself, to think about the other person. So So there's a perfectly righteous person who's so perfect that God doesn't need to teach him any more lessons, which is nobody, almost nobody. Then there's tzaddik v'rali. There's a tzaddik. Okay, maybe there's some people who are very holy, very righteous, very pure. You know what? They have a little bit of bad inside them. So God challenges him. He could be poor. He could be struggling with health. He could be, whatever it is, he's challenged. He has challenges in life, but that's on purpose because God's trying to help him get to where he needs to go, the mission in life, to grow, to become the perfect person. Then you have Rasha v'Toiva. You have a wicked person who life is good. Why would life be good for a wicked person? He's a terrible person. He's doing bad things, murder or whatever it is. God gives him good. You know why? Because he did a few mitzvahs in his life. So God says, you know what? I'm going to give him credit now in this world. Let me give him a little bit of credit. In the world to come, he'll have nothing left. I'll give him good things in this world. Then you have a wicked person who bad is for him because he has no good to him, which is also just like there's no perfectly perfect people. There's probably no terribly bad people either that are perfectly bad. And then there's the Beinoni, then there's the intermediate. And that is what Harvey wanted to say before, that's all of us. The intermediate guy is this 50-50 guy, which means he's maybe like the alcoholic. Why is he intermediate? Because he has the struggle, he has the drive to alcoholism. Totally, got that drive. But he's totally in control of his drive. He will not touch a drink. He has his mind, he's a very healthy person. His mind and his heart, he will not say a bad word to another person. He might want to, but he has mastered it. He's a disciplined person. He's the ultimate disciplined person. He is total in control of his faculties, which means that, fine, I hate the guy with a passion. I want that drink 100%, but it's not going to happen. I'm able to control myself and act. Is he a tzaddik? No, because he's not really perfect. He's struggling, man. He's got addictions to alcohol or to whatever else it is. But he's a intermediate person because although him and the wicked person have the same drives, I would say this in life. You see a Hasidic Jew, you think they're so, they have the same drives as everybody else, the same teens. People have teens that grow up in the yeshiva home, whatever. So on the same drives as the teens that don't. But hopefully, what they might have is their parents have taught them discipline to control those drives, or maybe even not. It could be in every part of the world. But the parents have taught them discipline that although no matter what drives you have, you cannot act upon your instinct. The Pirush Gemara, the Talmud explains this, what I've just explained, the 5 levels of people. Tzaddik, tzaddik gomer, the guy is perfectly righteous. The reason why he doesn't have any challenges is because God doesn't need to help him grow anymore. He's already got where he needs to go, which is, as I said, almost nobody. Basically nobody. Tzaddik v'raloi, a righteous person, a very holy righteous person who has negative things in his life. That is because this guy is not perfectly pure and God is trying to help him get through with challenges. As I said, he could have many struggles in life, but that's because God needs to help him clean up the little bit of bad he has. And as we explained, the 5 levels of people that there are. Raya Mehemna Parashas Mishpatim Pirush, in the book Raya Mehemna, right, which is a book on the Zohar, it says, Tzaddik v'raloi, what does it mean when there's a righteous person who has evil in him? Sharasha b'kafel l'toif. He's basically so holy, so righteous, which is maybe some that there's more of, but very few of holy people today. That is, that the evil is subjugated to the good. So he's an amazing good person, but he has a little bit of bad, but it's almost like he doesn't have bad because he barely gets bad thoughts. His addiction is so small, so few, there's no chance he's going to sin. You look at the guy, like there's no way in the world this guy's going to sin. He's so perfectly pure. He has a little bad, but it's not even a conversation, right? It's like people in our class are thinking to murder, God forbid. It's not even an option. We're so far from it, it's not even an option. So the tzaddik has no addictions. Gemara say, that's the brachas. And the Gemara in chapter 9 of the Talmud says that a tzaddik, these righteous people, Yetzer Toiv Sheiftin, who is in daily control of this person, the tzaddik, the righteous person, it's the Yetzer Toiv, the good inclination. He won more or less, he won the good fight. He doesn't want to do bad things anymore. But Rishoyim, evil people, Yetzer Sheiftin, the evil person, the addictions are so strong that really he's being led by the evil inclination. Beinoni, what's the middle guy? The middle guy, he says that Sheiftin, he says it's a real fear battle. It's 50-50. 50-50, man. The intermediate guys in betweeners, you have a heavy-duty godly soul. You love to do good, but you have a mighty engine, powerful animal soul. You are 50-50 struggle, and there's two people pushing you, man, on both sides. You're getting counsel from two heavy lawyers are pushing you. One is arguing one, and one's arguing the other side. Unfortunately, you're in the middle, and you have to make the decision about what to do. So this intermediate guy is nobody's in control, or they're both 50-50 in control. So this is the story so far. The Gemara says there's 5 levels of people. There's the perfectly perfect person, tzaddik. There's the tzaddik, but he's not perfect. There's the wicked person who's perfectly wicked, which is also extremely uncommon. Then there's the wicked person who's not perfectly wicked, and then you have the intermediate guy, 50-50. You know, you have counsel on both sides. You're being pushed in both ways. So the great sage Rabbah is there. This is where, again, we question. Rabbah says, you want to know who I am? Everyone's waiting to say the tzaddik, the perfect tzaddik. Fine, you're not the perfect tzaddik. You're the unperfect tzaddik. He says, he says, I am the intermediate guy. The great holy Rabbah, one of the greatest scholars, holy men of all time. He says, you want to know which of these 5 categories I am? I'm the intermediate guy. So Abaya, his friend, his student, says to him, he says, what? That's ridiculous. If you're the Beinoni, who are we? If you are the Beinoni, we're all the wicked people, you're going to kill all of us, mister. You know, great rabbi, if you're going to say that you, the great, awesome, amazing, holy rabbi, are only the intermediate guy, that means we're all wicked. So the Gemara, so in the Tanya now, he wants to question that. To understand this, what's going on over here? Who's the rabbi? What's he saying? I'm going to tell you the answer now already. Because you could be that how could Rabbah think he's an intermediate guy? It's fine. He could think that. You want to know why? Because he maybe never did a sin a day in his life. But how do you know what's in his heart? How do you know he's not struggling? How do you know he hasn't struggled to where he's gotten to every single day? He might have never done, he might be fully in control. He might be the most disciplined person you know, who's fully in control and doing everything right. But how do you know where he is emotionally? You don't know. So Rabbah, it's possible for him to say, look, I'm the intermediate guy. Now, all of us could maybe be a Russia, but again, that might not be so bad, because a Russia doesn't mean that we're doing bad things. It means that our evil inclination has a very strong pull on us. We're not acting on it, but we have a very strong evil inclination that's pulling us. That's going to be the answer to this question. That's why it all makes sense. You could have an amazing tzaddik say he's an intermediate person. That's fine. He's not a tzaddik because he's saying, I struggle to struggle every day. So to say that someone is a perfectly perfect tzaddik, you know what you mean? The guy has no struggles. Who do we know in life that's like that? There's nobody like that. There's nobody in life that doesn't struggle. So we're not really tzaddikim. We're really fine and okay with being intermediate or even having wicked tendencies that we're struggling. We're okay being the alcoholic. And to understand what Job says, we're almost done. Baba Basra Perak Aleph, in another tractate of the Talmud, Rabbeinu Shalom, he says, God in heaven, creator, master of the universe, Barasa Tzadikim, Barasa Rishayim, he says, God, you created righteous people and you created wicked people. God, you created righteous and wicked people. What? How could you say that? God makes people righteous and God makes people evil? God doesn't tell anyone how. We believe in free will. Are you kidding? How could Job say that God created righteous and wicked people? That takes away everything Judaism believes in, that we believe in, that there's no such a thing as a righteous and a wicked. God gives you the full act in your hand. Again, another question. I'm going to tell you the answer now. What's going to be? I think from our class, you already probably could guess the answer. God gave us tendencies of wicked and righteous. God might have gave certain people a mission in life to have a tendency of being righteous or a tendency of being wicked. It doesn't mean you have to act on it, but God will give us different struggles in life to deal with. But Muslim, to understand, we also want to understand what's the intermediate person. You can't say about an intermediate person. You can't say it just means 50 good, 50 bad. Why can't it be that an intermediate person is a guy who's 50-50, did 50 positive things in his life and 50% negative things? Because if so, how could the great sage Rabbah have thought that he's this intermediate guy? Why not? We know how holy he was. We know that the angel of death, he was such a holy man, this Rabbah guy who said he's intermediate person, so holy, the angel of death couldn't kill him. Why not? Because as long as you're learning The angel of death can't, you're so holy and powerful, the angel of death can't kill you. The angel of death couldn't kill him because he was sitting and learning every single day, every single moment. How could such a guy think he's 50-50 if the intermediate guy means that he's 50% done good things and 50% bad? Impossible. This guy's definitely 99-1, if not 100. So how could Rabbi have mistaken himself and said, I'm an intermediate guy, meaning I did 50% good things in my life and 50% bad things in my life? The answer we all know already as I'm explaining what the Tanya is going to say. It doesn't mean, intermediate person doesn't mean you did 50% good and 50% bad. Intermediate person means that your evil inclination is still a fight, that you're fighting the good fight inside you. That's what it means. And that's why Rabbi could make a mistake and say he's an intermediate person because he felt he was still fighting the fight. Just to finish this question and we're done. We know at the moment in life when you sin, you get caught up, you're doing an act, you're doing a terrible sin. At that moment in the sin, you're completely evil, right? When the alcoholic goes to the bar and drowns himself in drinking, he's lost it. You might have been an intermediate person 30 seconds ago, but right now, you're gone, man. You're in. Or when you do the Avera, when you do the sin, it's not that you're not now. At that moment of the sin, at that mitzvah, you're holy, you're a tzaddik. The moment you're doing an Avera, you're full in. As soon as you repent, you're right, you're back on track. As soon as the alcoholic leaves the restaurant, he says, I'm not touching a drink for another 50 years. You're right, he's back on track. He's a good guy again. But at the moment, he's lost, he's unhealthy, he's sick. At the moment of a sin, we are in the sin. We're evil, we're wicked at that person. Even a little tiny sin of the rabbinic level, no big deal. No, at the moment of sin, you're sinning. We even hold a person's accountable for not just the little actions they did wrong, but even for not stopping someone else from doing something bad. At that moment, if you could stop someone from doing something bad, in Judaism, we hold we're responsible for each other. And you're wicked at that moment because you could have stood up and said something and done something, and you didn't. You get caught up in that sin. At that moment, you're wicked. Even if you don't do a positive mitzvah, not just you do a prohibition, but you don't do a positive mitzvah, you're caught up at that moment in sin. It's like someone who is supposed to study Torah and doesn't. You have time to learn Torah and you don't. That's a sin. You're embarrassing God. God gave you the Holy Torah and you're wasting time. And not learning Torah is a very strict sin. And therefore, you must say, the Beinoni, the intermediate person, is someone that doesn't violate the prohibition of wasting time and not studying Torah at any moment. Therefore, Rabbi could mistaken himself and think he was a Beinoni. So basically, what we're saying is the intermediate guy is a super high level. Forget about tzaddik. We're not even talking about tzaddik. It means you haven't done anything bad, and you're not doing anything bad. And you don't even have a will to do anything bad. The Beinoni guy is struggling, but he's a total discipline freak. He's a person who's completely disciplined and in control of his actions and will not do anything wrong because he's totally in control. And therefore, Rabba, now, if you did a sin and you're considered wicked at the moment of the sin, that's fine, because 30 seconds later, the alcoholic left the bar. He's not going to touch a drink for 30 years. He's back on track. He's back to being an intermediate guy. You could get back very quickly, too. But the point is that being a Beinoni means I'm struggling with my evil inclination, but I could be completely disciplined and still become called an intermediate person because I have the struggle within me. So just to wrap it up, that is really it. I'm amazed that we have, Baruch Hashem, 14 people still here with us together. To wrap it up, we asked a lot of questions today because Tanya wants to explain to us the psyche of how the human being works, and he's going to tell us that God, and I always talk about this Yom Kippur by us, God gave you that addiction. God gave you the evil inclination, but he also gave you the tools to overcome it. So we're very happy with our challenges in life. We don't want it, but we're okay with it. We live with it. We're happy with it. We're okay. We're like the alcoholic that we're driven to do negative things, but it's amazing because every time we don't do something bad, we're doing a mitzvah. If you would have no drive, it wouldn't be a mitzvah not to do bad stuff. So God is going to give us, we'll learn tomorrow, 2 souls. So be here again tomorrow, because again, it's the second very important class for the foundation here. It's like, stop with this human being of, nobody's perfect. First of all, nobody's perfect in life. There's nobody in life who's a tzaddik. That's one thing we established. There's nobody in life who's a tzaddik. Nobody's perfect. Everyone wants to do bad things. Everyone has their addictions. Don't give me this business. There's nobody who's a tzaddik. I wish we could be a Beinoni, a middle guy. What is a Beinoni guy? Someone who's completely in control and completely disciplined person. That is what a Beinoni is. And maybe at times in life we'll be wicked. We'll indulge. We'll be that alcoholic. We'll indulge. But we'll learn tomorrow that. Yeah. Yes, I would argue that the Rebbe was one person that was a tzaddik, a complete tzaddik. Yes, that's very few and far in between. Big scholars and so on. I would say the Rebbe hit that level, but there's nobody like that. There's nobody else like that, which is normal, which is fine. Hashem once in a while gives us somebody who's very holy and powerful to guide us. It's a gift. It's a gift from God that comes along once in a lifetime, that there is somebody there who will reach that level. But otherwise, all of us are struggling.
I think
I thought there was 30. I'm sorry.
Correct. There are 30. Yeah. Yes. David, there's no one who's a tzaddik.
Excuse
I wish
me.
I were a baby.
I think you're a close protege, so don't
No.
debate it with me, please.
I'm not going to debate you because I know I'll lose. But that's the only reason why I'm not debating it, not because I agree.
So, Rabbi,
yes,
I thought there's 36.
There are. Right. So we're going to see this. He's going to say in tomorrow that God had a big problem. What's the problem? If God's got a whole world of wicked people running around, I mean, we need to guarantee some perfect people in this world to keep the world going. You know what I mean? If we're all challenged and sinning and so on, how's the world going to stand? So we're going to learn, I believe tomorrow, we're going to say that God saw that there's a problem. He officially made 36 hidden tzaddikim. He made people that will be righteous to keep the world going. Correct, Brad? So there are people that God put in here just to keep the world going. That will be, and we'll learn about that tomorrow. Correct. So there's no choice.
Okay, so you'll explain that further, and you know.
We'll have that tomorrow.
Okay.
But yeah.
So they might be like a homeless guy or something like that. They don't have to be a rabbi or anything, right?
I remember in kids growing up, you always heard about these 36 headed tzaddikim. So every time there was like a homeless guy, you know what I mean, who came in with ripped pants to the shul, or someone who's not 100%.
That's what I always hear.
You think the guy's like missing of whatever. He's not 100%. Oh, he's one of the 36 hidden tzaddikim. Everybody's all of a sudden like, oh, he's that righteous person that's keeping the world going.
Well, hey, it keeps you being nice to them and keeps you giving tzedakah to them.
Correct. You're right. So we'll learn more about that tomorrow. Yeah. Any questions or comments on today's topic? Yes, David Struman.
Rabbi, it's very interesting, this whole philosophy of good versus wicked, righteous versus non-righteous. I had an interesting occurrence over the weekend where two of my children, who are not children, they're adults, they got into a brawl, a mental verbal brawl, and it was ugly. And what was interesting about it was that I stopped them both dead in their tracks, and I said, I want the two of you right now to just answer one question. What would Hashem do? And it's interesting because not only did it stop them dead in their tracks, it led to two mutual apologies to one another for saying wicked and hurtful things.
Right.
So, through your classes and through your tutelage, it's very interesting how we pass that on to others in our life that can truly learn from it, even though they're not attending your classes too. So there's a lot of good to be shared with those who ask themselves what you've always taught us, what would Hashem do?
I want to say two things. So first of all, I don't think most of you were in the lecture Sunday night. I want to share with you something he said, which is very, I don't think I shared it yesterday. Stop me if I did, if I shared this the other day. There was a father kid was trying to get the father's attention, and the father was busy, so he wanted to keep his kid busy. So he took there was a magazine on his table. Did I share this yesterday, or you were there? Just I want to
from the rabbi.
Yeah, you were there. So he took a magazine that had a map of the world on it. He ripped it up into a bunch of pieces. He gave it to the kid, and he told the kid, he said, put together the map. Now, he was a little kid. He didn't know the map, obviously, so it would take him a long time. So the father thought he'll get a good hour of work, whatever it was, time out, while the kid puts together the map, and then he could take care of the kid. So the kid goes, he comes back 10 minutes later, and he says, Dad, I finished. It's impossible. You don't know geography so well. How'd you put together the map? So he comes and he sees the kid put the map together perfectly within 10 minutes. So he says, well, how'd you do it? So he said, a magazine has two sides. There's a picture on both sides. On the other side of the map was a picture of a man. He says, look, I don't know what the map world looks like, but I know what a person looks like. And I was able quickly to put together the person. And by putting together the person, I ended up putting together the whole world too. That's on the other side. So Rabbi Tab was saying, very powerful message. We got so used to globalism today that the world is such a small place, we forgot about the uniqueness of the individual, how important the single person is. He says that if you make a complete, healthy, single person, that person will change the world. So it's this notion of we meet thousands of people and we touch so many people's lives. You know what I mean? Like tremendous amount of people's lives are touched. We're missing the point in a way. The value of, we're losing the uniqueness and specialty of one individual. So one person can and will change the world. If we can create, I'm saying like teaching other people, if we can affect one person and make that one person into a healthy person, forget about changing thousands of lives. Change your child's life, affect one person in your life, you're actually could and are changing the world. We have to stop looking at this globalist, change the whole world. Just change, affect one person. Yeah, I think that's very powerful. That was the first thing I wanted to say. And I forget the second thing. Oh, I want to tell you, there's an amazing book called Crucial Conversations. I have to read it again. It's a bestseller, New York Times bestseller. Unbelievable book about debates. I think our culture, you know the book, David? Our culture today does not know how to have conversations to speak to each other. I think it's maybe one of the biggest challenges of our times, of our day and age. So it was such a powerful book. I was dealing with some issues in life which I couldn't get through to people. Like I couldn't, so someone suggested that book to learn how to help people work it out. And like, I want to say one thing when people are arguing. I wanted to mention this to you on Shabbos when we were talking. I told you in Shul, I want 2 weeks ago, I told you I wanted to tell you one thing after that, but I didn't get a chance. I want to share you now. When two people are arguing, we have to realize a lot of times both sides really have the same goal. In other words, let's even say politics. We both want a good world. We both want a healthy country. We both want to do good. We get so caught up in our opinion that we paint the other person as an evil person because they don't agree with our opinion. But if we can start the conversation saying, look, you want to do what's good. You're a good person and you want to bring goodness to this country. You want this country to be well. And that's where you're coming from. And I'm coming from the same place as you. I also want to do goodness for this world. And I want to make this country a good country. We just have different plans in how it should be done. But we got to start from the same point that really we both want to do good in the world and we want to make good things happen. And then the conversation could flow from there often about the two different opinions that are there. That's a key element in Crucial Conversations. Is he talks about the worker, basically he describes how the boss would come into the room and he saw how half the office would 99% of the people would shut their mouth. Because they knew if they would challenge the boss would kick them out of the meeting, would shut them up right away. So nobody wanted to say anything. And it says that's not how a successful company runs because everybody shares their opinion and then you could grow. But the problem was, he says there was one person in the group that knew how to get through to the boss. And what did he do? He would always start, boss, you really want the company to grow. He found a way to make that connection before he disagreed. And he completely disagreed with the boss. And he was able to get through to him because he was able to start from that very healthy point that we really are trying to really get to the same point. But you and me, once we start arguing, the boss is now threatened and he doesn't want to listen to you and he's going to kick you out of the company because you're now against him. If you could find this book, it's amazing. It says you could find that crucial conversation, that point to connect and say, look, me and you, we really want to do what's best for the country. We just have difference of opinion. that's a very healthy way to have a debate. So anyway, that I wanted to share that with you. There's a lot of debates going on now. A lot of people see things differently, but we really, if we can just start from that point of saying, look, me and you, we both want to do what's best for the country. We both want to do what's best for the Jewish people. We both want to do what's best for Israel, but I see things differently than you. It'll help people have a healthy conversation. I hope that was, that made sense. David Strumeyer, yes? Good? Okay. That was a point I wanted to mention in the debating that's going on today with many people. All right. Anyhow, Tanya's saying, don't feel bad about it. You are not I'm not a tzaddik. You're not a tzaddik. You have wicked emotions in you, but our goal in Tanya is going to be to work on the discipline and not say mean things to the person, even though we feel like we want to say mean things to the person. And try to get even though we want to watch that unhealthy thing I shouldn't watch, control my mind not to think about it. I am in control, and I guess a lot of it's about discipline. We can still be disciplined even if we're harboring negative thoughts. And fight the opposite. It's a bigger mitzvah. The more of an alcoholic you are, that Hashem created you, He did not create you that you have to drink. He did create you maybe with a tendency that alcohol is much more appealing to you. But you're in control, and you could control that. And that's what we're going to learn, hopefully, in Tanya. Thank you for joining me. Have an amazing day. And I'm looking forward to this journey of Tanya with you guys as we get on with it.
Thank you.
Rabbi.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you,
Yes.
Harvey. Thank you, David. David, I hope we tempted you back. We're going to see you again.